Welcome to season 2 for Creativity in Robots. It's been a while. I'll miss you all, but I had to do other things. And today, we're talking about marketing. And right now, many marketing teams are either overwhelmed by AI or using it, but without a clear plan all over the place. Lucky for us, today we have the honor of having Catherine Thoms, who helps fix that. She's been doing this for 25 plus years. She's trained more than 10,000 plus marketers across 20 plus countries and worked with brands like Twitter, that's how we met, Danone, and General Assembly. So as an AI marketing educator, consultant, and speaker, she focuses on AI literacy, workflow optimization, and marketing innovation. But what I like about her is that we're going to skip all the BS, all the platitudes, and we're going to go for the real stuff. So, Catherine, first of all, let's explain folks, why should they listen to you?
Oh, thanks, Juan. I love the intro, by the way. Thank you. I'm feeling very pumped up here. So why should they listen to me? I guess I've been helping marketers navigate change since change started. And I think there's one thing, if you're in marketing, you have to adapt to change. Things are always evolving. And I started my career back in digital 20 years ago, when at that point we were just as skeptical about what's this digital thing and do I need to go online? And there was a lot of the same conversations that I'm having now, like how do I navigate it? What does it mean for my job? What do I have to do differently? How's this changing consumer behaviors? And so I've spent my whole career helping marketing teams just navigate to whatever that next change is. So initially that was shifting from print and paper into online strategies. Then we've had constant changes in data and marketing technology, mobile, search, social, and AI really is just the latest change that we're having to navigate. So all of those mindsets and skills and shifts are just now what we're applying to the next new wave. But yeah, I've helped marketing teams get their heads around it, make the most of it, and not feel frightened about it. Just keep adapting and keep evolving in a way that helps us stay ahead.
And Catherine, I'm glad you're mentioning your experience through change. We saw the first wave of the dot-com bubble and how that all crashed, but then we had a second wave, which is the one we're riding right now into the abyss many times. But let's say I just want to go back in time and think about the first time you found out about, AI as we know it right now, right? We always know about the robots, whatever. But one day we all had ChatGPT and out of the blue, we're like, what the hell? So tell me about that moment and what's the most shocking way in which AI has changed how you work?
Gosh, Juan, I was, I'll be honest, I was quite a skeptic initially. And so we were training leaders. I've been training digital leaders for many, many years as well. And AI had always been a huge part of that program. So we'd always talked about machine learning and computer vision and all lots of different ways that AI could help it use data and make decisions better. So AI had been on the radar for ages. And then slowly, more generative AI started coming in. And all of a sudden there was this ChatGPT thing that exploded. And like lots of people, I probably jumped on and was woefully unimpressed. I tried a few prompts and I tried a few things and I was like, this is rubbish. What are people talking about? This isn't going to change anything. I can get better results myself. And, I was a huge skeptic. Luckily for me, my business partner and husband was way more of an optimist and kept plugging away with it and started to see some quite good results. So I kind of had to redress my own skepticism, jump back on, and just over time got involved more and more in what it could do. And I suppose it's like having a team of assistants, isn't it? But this team of assistants go on training courses every weekend and keep getting better and better and better. Mm-hmm. So I've found it's been a slow, gradual shift in the way that I work as opposed to an overnight evolution. Things that I thought ChatGPT perhaps couldn't help me with, it can now help me with, and other tools that I'm using for research and strategic thinking and analysis. So I think that's the biggest shift is like most marketers, when I first went online, it was maybe helping me edit some copy or craft some content or take a podcast transcript and turn it into an article. So I was using it for quite simple content creation. Where I've now got to today is it's much more of a sparring partner, coach, where I'll turn to different tools and use them to challenge my own thinking or think more strategically or find gaps and find holes in things and do a lot more strategic planning. So it's woven itself more and more into my workflows and day. So rather than just go externally for one specific task, it's become inbuilt into my whole ways of working and really given massive efficiency dial-ups as a result.
And Catherine, you're making it really easy for me to ask questions because it's literally like UN at the same point that I have a pre-planned question. So I'm like, hell yeah. So I'm going to ask, from those first days, where you found ChatGPT, and I love the word rubbish, by the way. I think the American English should adopt it because it's far superior to trash. I don't know if I ever told you I have family in England, and I love every time they say rubbish, I'm like, just say rubbish all the time. I love that word. But speaking of rubbish, so you go play with ChatGPT, you don't find it as endearing, as useful as you thought, but then with time that changes. Now, if we're talking about today, is ChatGPT still your go-to tool, or have you replaced it with anything else?
Great question. I have a team of assistants, and when I think about any kind of generative AI, I do think about exactly like I've got this human team of assistants, and they shine at different things and they excel and are good at different things. So I think one of the big shifts for me has been understanding, well, which tools get the best results for which particular task. And that does change because they're constantly evolving the models behind them and they're getting smarter and they're dropping new updates through. So it doesn't always mean that that assistant stays the best. But yeah, in terms of my go-to team, I would say ChatGPT is still my original and best. And perhaps because I've worked with it for 2 years, it really gets me. It really understands me. The latest model, without getting all techie, they've just dropped 4.5. And I have found that there's a big uplift in how smart and strategic and it gets my results most of the time. But that said, that's because I've invested heavily in learning how to prompt. And it's all about knowing how to ask the right questions in the right way and get the model to think in a particular way to get you the results you want. So ChatGPT is my normal original go-to. That would be for anything from brainstorming to ideation to planning, some drafting of content. But then Claude is my very, very human friend. And I find is probably better when it comes to more human copywriting. But also the nuances. And I know it sounds crazy to talk about an AI being better at human stuff. But if I want to get perspectives and I want to get inside my audience's head or my audience's shoes and go, well, look, how's this coming across? Or what else should I think about? I do find that Claude picks up nuances that ChatGPT doesn't. So I'll go to Claude, ask its opinion, and then often bring those findings back to ChatGPT. So I'm like playing my assistants off against each other. And then finally in the mix very, very regularly is Perplexity for more research, because obviously it's got a lot more access to up-to-date sources. And I love the way that it just pulls everything down into one place. So rather than a Google search and you're constantly clicking in and out, I'm finding increasingly I'm searching initially through Perplexity and then bringing those findings back to one of the other tools. So they're probably my 3 favorites. I do use Gemini and Notebook and, a ton of other places as well. But they're probably my 3 most common go-tos on a daily basis.
It's funny you mentioned Claude. Like, you're actually making me want to play. It sounds so weird to say, making me want to play it with Claude again. But Claude used to be my go-to tool. And then out of the blue, and I think everybody went through this, started like really cutting on the rate. So I could barely use it. I was already running out. And it's not like I'm putting a whole book, I'm having like a couple of sentences, but it's like you exceeded your limit. And I was paying. So I got pretty frustrated by that. And lately been on a bit of a romance with Gemini and Notebook LLM. Like, I really like, for Notebook LLM, as someone that sometimes struggles with focusing, having the podcast option as a way to kind of like dip my feet into a topic before I go and read the paper. Like, it's super helpful for me. Also, the research tool, which has been kind of hit and miss. I don't know if you tried the Gemini research where you have all those agents.
Yeah, so same as you. I love Notebook LLM. So for listeners that aren't aware, you can upload a PDF into it, take a 40-page report, and it will turn it into a podcast. The audio on the presenters can be a little bit cheesy, but you're right. It does mean that you can take a white paper to the gym and learn about it while you're on the running machine, or taking the dog for a walk. So, I mean, that's amazing because all of us absorb information in different ways. So again, knowing the different skills and tools. I haven't used Gemini a lot for deep research. So you make me think now I need to jump back on there and give that another play. And I know what you mean about Claude. Claude does drive me nuts it's very forgetful. It's got a goldfish memory. One of the really good ways around that is they now have projects and folders, the same as you can set up in ChatGPT. Storing conversations in particular folders, you help increase the memory. So that's a really good workaround for Claude being so forgetful. And apparently they are working on getting its memory better. But absolutely, I pay for licenses just on Claude and ChatGPT because I was just getting so frustrated with it running out constantly. They're my paid licenses, but everything else I dip into, I don't pay for currently.
Yeah. And as a marketer, specifically, right? Because beyond this ChatGPT, Claude, all these tools, we're seeing now that there's a lot of tools that are kind of putting like a wrapper in a way. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation, but a little extra layer on top of things to customize to certain industries, right? Is there any tool specific for marketers that you're really enjoying and you're noticing as you talk to so many marketers, that they have no clue it even exists and could be such a game changer?
So I think the next evolution of what we're seeing is what you're talking about, the wrapper is called an AI aggregator. And one of the big pain points at the moment is that you've got Claude for this bit, Gemini for that bit, hopping off to ChatGPT for another bit. And there's an awful lot of jumping around between tabs and cutting and pasting, which is just not going to be sustainable. So you're absolutely right. What we're seeing, a couple of things that are happening over on Jasper. We're seeing that, they're trying to build in now many, many, many more tools. So you're trying to kind of, rather than just use it as a writing tool, it's now setting out its stall to be a little bit of an all-in-one marketing AI system. And I think that's what we're going to start seeing is that there's going to be consolidation as tools start to extend their output. And then on the other side, as you were saying, you've got things like there's a whole heap of AI aggregators. So you've got 1 Minute AI, you've got You.ai, I think it is, where they're a kind of front door and you're actually tapping into all the different models and all the different platforms behind it. And I think we're going to see a big growth in that direction because people don't want to have to keep hopping in and out. So I think you're going to see two things happening then. So I think marketing tools are going to get more and more AI embedded into them and increase that scope. And I suppose on the flip side, we've seen that with Canva, haven't we? Canva have brought in, it's always been a graphic design tool, working more on your imagery and your visuals, and they're trying to build in things like Magic Write, so you can actually write within the system. So we're going to see a consolidation because the last thing that marketing teams need is more tools. So whenever we go in and we're working with teams, we really, really educate people to start with what you've got, because there's a ton of AI within tools that you've already got that's being optimized, that's optimized and not being utilized. We know that there's massive underusage. We know that things like, a lot of people have got stuff built into Copilot, or we're seeing more and more Gemini coming into Google tools. So there's more and more AI coming into the systems you've already got. So step one is like, what have you already got? Step two is then looking for external tools, but where you are looking for those external tools, absolutely being mindful that there's going to be consolidation happening. So the last thing you want to do is jump on board with a tool, bring it in, invest in it, get it up to speed, and then it's not going to be fit for purpose moving forward.
Oh, with all this information, it does sound like a lot. And I do this for a living, use these tools every day. And as you were talking about the tabs, I was imagining Google Chrome and getting overwhelmed. So I'm assuming that for the marketer that joins your class, and maybe, again, at this point, I think everybody has played with these tools at least once, or is familiar, or they've seen the Oprah special, whatever. But I'm like, what's the main fear that you're seeing right now? And I don't know if fear is the word, right? But I'm sure there's a pain point or a worry in marketers. I mean, number one, I would say losing their jobs. But like, what's the thing that you see? These are the trends. These are the pain points for marketers in 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think number one is first and foremost, yes, is my job going to be safe and secure? Am I actually bringing something in that's going to do me out of a job in the longer term? Which I don't think, that's not where we're at all. The very human skills that we need to bring as marketers, empathy, curiosity, strategic thinking, understanding human customers, AI is not there yet at all. But in terms of staying on your fear question, yes, it's that kind of, is my job safe? But then there's also the trust element of, am I doing something risky? Am I going to risk damaging my brand by using AI? Is the quality of the output good enough? What's the data? What's the security? And this is where we find in particular where companies don't have like clear guidelines for marketers to experiment within, there can be a lot of fear. A lot of organizations as well still have a bit of a hard no, we're not using AI. So within those organizations, people are like, well, I don't want to do it. I'm going to get into trouble, or I'm going to, that's not the rules of my company or what I'm allowed to do. So there's a lot of unknowns at the moment as we transition to the new ways of working. So I think it's, yes, individually, what does that mean for my job? As a company, what am I allowed to do versus not allowed to do? I don't want to get into trouble. And then as a brand, I don't want to do something that's going to damage my brand externally to my customers, or take a risk, or put something out there that makes us, look ingenuine. I don't know if that's... Did I just make a word up?
I mean, you're the native speaker, so I'm just going to nod and say yes, like I usually do when I don't know.
Disingenuine. Let's roll with that.
So what I'm seeing then is that when you do your trainings, you're not only talking to the boots on the ground marketer, but you're talking also to brands and leadership. And leadership, it's where I'm really interested. You don't need to give any names. So leadership, you're safe for now. But Catherine, at least in my experience, let's just say 30%, maybe a bit less. I mean, I haven't really been tracking, so I'm pulling the numbers off my ass. But it's not the majority, but definitely we have more than I would like to see that gets really excited about the possibility of actually AI replacing everyone. And if they don't have to pay for anyone ever again, great. And if they can pirate software, even better. Like literally, it's profit as much as possible. Have you run into this kind of people that are like, how do we implement AI and get rid of everyone? Or not? That's not something you're not, like what's your experience?
No, great question. There's definitely productivity pressure and growth pressure that comes down from the top, but we are not seeing that translate into, just get another ChatGPT license and we can ditch our content team next week. I'm not seeing that kind of expectation gap here, that it's about replacing people. It's more about how do we help people work better? How do we do more with the same budgets or even with less budgets? How do we increase our performance and get more out of every dollar that we're spending? We are seeing increased scrutiny on agency spend, definitely. We're back to that cycle of, well, can we now pull more of this back in-house? And I think agencies, and we work with some agencies, it's more about, well, how do you shift your positioning that you're now not crunching and creating assets at scale, because AI can do that. What's the strategic element or the creative element that we bring as advisors and as, real creative strategists that help clients do stuff better, rather than, we can get you 25 social media scheduled posts tomorrow because an AI tool can do that in 2 minutes. So we're seeing shifts on external spend. We're seeing increased pressure on marketing departments to achieve their goals, to deliver ROI, and to really, get the same results off the same budgets or less budgets. But I'm not seeing that translate down any expectations at the moment, certainly with the leaders that we work with. And we're very much about human first AI. We're very much around, okay, help your teams do this stuff better because they're going to be a happier workforce. They're going to be more enjoy their jobs. They're going to grow with you. They're not going to leave, and you're going to be able to achieve better marketing results without needing to, have people working late or working long hours. So that's kind of more the positioning we're seeing at the moment. And that, that's an honest perspective of what we're getting asked to come in and help marketing teams do. It's not a downsizing exercise.
You work with marketers all over the world, right? So do you see any difference between geographies here in the US? For example, we hear a lot about how Europe is stifling innovation. And then you talk to folks in Europe, some agree, some others are like, no, we're good with stifling innovation. Like, don't worry, it's not for us, the innovation. So what are the kind of differences you're seeing in geographies? Is there anything that has surprised you?
Not enormously. I think that there was a perception last year that Australia and APAC were getting a bit left behind and were a bit lagging. And I do think that particularly basing it on, where I live in Australia, there can be a little bit of fear and a little bit of like, oh gosh, we don't want to get things wrong. So we'll attack the pace a way that we feel comfortable with. So we probably see slightly more advancement, I would say, out of Europe and the US, but that's certainly catching up here and coming through in waves here. But yeah, that helping people advance while they're still feeling cautious. Again, it's definitely a skill set and a mindset piece that comes down from leadership of like, well, how do we adopt some of these things, but in a way that feels safe and feels comfortable and is the right pace for us? Because that's essentially what we're going through, is a great big digital transformation, change management piece again, isn't it? It's just how do we evolve? How do we look at our ways of working, look at our ways of thinking about this, but do it in a way that is safe. And then we start to see, directives coming down from a government level around things like data and data security and data privacy. And that will enhance or inhibit the speed and pace of change as those things drop down. And as marketers, we have to stay across what are we allowed to do from a compliance perspective as well.
And I'm glad you're bringing compliance and ethics and data. And we're almost finishing, right? But like, you're making it very easy for me to jump to topic. I'm having the time of my life right now. So anyway, we know AI is training bias data. How can that affect the marketing output, right? Like dealing with all this data that maybe is thought for people that look like me. Maybe they don't speak with an accent, as they love to say here, but, basically 30 to 45, white, it's kind of like we're the golden rule for everything else, the golden standard. So how do you, as a woman, I don't even know if asking as a woman, right? But like, how can this affect marketing, and what's your perspective on this?
Great question. So it's almost like when the models were trained, they obviously pulled down, as you say, on everything that's been created on the internet, good, bad, indifferent. And a large volume of that content has been created for white, Western, male, middle age, that absolute boardroom stereotype. So we do see it, and one of the things that we cover in our training is how AI will generate images. And you go in and you say, oh, hey, give me a boardroom, or give me a leader, or give me a CMO, or give me a CFO. 9 times out of 10, it is going to just give you a male in a suit in a boardroom. And it's that absolute perpetuation of bias and stereotypes. And then on the flip side, when you're talking more about women and, the negative perception of female imagery on the internet, again, it's going to perpetuate. We all look like Barbie. It's the absolute stereotypical, slim, attractive female. And so there's a couple of things that you just have to be aware of. Number one, that is what it's going to do without any kind of training or any kind of challenging to it. So the second part that we do, there's 2 elements to it. One is context. So the more you share context and your values and what is important to you and your content and your perspective within your walled garden of whatever AI assistant you're working in, the more you're influencing it to reflect your values. So that is helpful. So we always talk a lot about uploading your own knowledge files and uploading your own, your brand voice, uploading your rules, your do's and don'ts, your values, your company values. All of those things are going to help to a degree. And then the second thing is we actually train on prompts that help overcome bias. And a brilliant resource. So Dove has always been a really big voice in female, representation online, and the very damaging self-esteem that, years and years and years of social media messaging and influencers and attractive females in advertising has done, particularly to women. And so Dove have brought out a great resource. Number one, they've said they will never use artificially generated images, whether that changes and evolves over time. But their stance right now is no, we do not use AI generated images. And the second thing that they've published, which I can give you for the show notes as well, is you can download a really good prompt guide for getting it to generate diverse images of humans. So whether that's somebody that's tall or old or slim or, you know, has any kind of variable on the human body that you can think of, it will help you to then use prompts to generate a more diverse representative image out of any kind of like human-based imagery. So yeah, that's our take. Yes, be 100% aware it's fully trained on bias, and two ways you can overcome it is contextually training it to your own style and tone and brand, and then learning how to prompt properly to encourage more diverse representation in the responses, whether that's imagery or text.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe for those of you watching from the US, you might want to hire different people, which can provide different perspectives. Just a thought, guys. Catherine, one thing, and this is going to be my final question, one thing that of all the talented and very smart people I talk to, we keep going back to the same point at the end of every show, which is you want to be great at AI? Well, FAI, get good at your industry's fundamentals, right? So, and we keep saying like, know your craft, adapt. But my question for you is, from what you learned talking to all these marketers, what are the let's say one, but if you got a bit more, you can share more. What's the number one non-AI skill that will set you up for success using AI tools?
I'm just going to basically play back what you said. You've just got to be a damn good marketer. The fundamentals of good marketing have not changed. They have not changed. And no AI in the world is going to make a bad strategy good. You are just amplifying. So 100%, those very, very human skills, the reasons why we all got into marketing in the first place, because we love understanding humans, we love biopsychology, we love triggering behavior. You know all of that, because knowing all of that then helps you take a really, really good idea into AI, build on it, put it in a high-speed blender to churn out other ideas or other ways of thinking about things or different perspectives you hadn't thought of, that you then bring back to your very human understanding of what makes your consumer tick or what makes your audience tick. And that allows you to then critically evaluate those ideas that come back out. So it really is that ability to mush together the great skills of being a really strong marketer, the human empathy, creativity, strategic thinking with what AI can bring you. And that's the skill set that's going to really stand people together in the first place, the human side plus the technology.
So correct me if I'm wrong, the number one takeaway I'm getting from this conversation is that AI won't fix shit marketing. Marketers that know their craft will.
And we have a slide in our slide deck, and it's years old from a chap that was David. Oh gosh, my brain's gone blank. But David, a very senior Ogilvy guy back from the 70s, and he was like, "Shit at the speed of shit is still shit." So it's like, just because we can do stuff faster, it doesn't mean it's better. So we just want to take all our absolute best ideas and use AI to help us do things more effectively and efficiently. It's certainly not replacing that human essence and human skill.
Mm-hmm. So, Catherine, I appreciate you jumping on this new season so much. I wanted to have you on the show for a while now. So where can folks learn more about the work you do, find your content, to learn from all the amazing stuff you're doing along Stephen? Stephen, by the way, hi, it's been a minute.
Yeah, so you can jump on and follow us on LinkedIn. So Catherine Toms on LinkedIn, you'll find me over there. We share lots of content.
We'll have all the links in the description for folks to click.
Yes, you'll find lots of content over there. We do lots of free webinars as well. And if they're not US friendly hours, we keep the recordings available for a short period of time. And then if you want to dive a little bit deeper and learn more, we have live training courses for marketers at different levels. So we've got the get stuck in and learn everything from the foundations upwards. And then when you're ready to advance on to kind of more advanced strategies, we've got more in-depth guides into advanced AI in marketing. So we've got courses coming up, and then we also come in and do a lot of enterprise corporate training as well, where we either fly all over the world or jump online and train marketing teams in-house, because that way you get to custom the tools, you get to learn as a team and get everybody on the same page. But yes, plenty of ways your listeners can stay in touch and keep up to date with all these changes as they come through.
Mm-hmm. And again, we'll be including all the links down here in the description. Doesn't matter if you're watching on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, you're pirating it. Well, if you're pirating it, I admire you for the commitment you have. But like there's always links in the description, tons of useful resources. Also that prompting guide you mentioned, I would really appreciate it if you could, like, I know folks are going to love that one, or maybe not love, but they will find it useful. So Catherine, thank you so much for joining. And I appreciate your time, like this has been great. And I think marketers can get lots of takeaways. First of all, trust what you know, stay updated, don't get overwhelmed, pick a tool, and then go and check Catherine and Stephen's content so you can learn more. We won't give the secret sauce away. Have a good one.
Thank you. Pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Mm-hmm. And for all of you that are watching, remember, if you like this video, if you subscribe, the algorithm loves the stuff. I hate asking for it, but we need those numbers to go up. So please subscribe, like all of it, and I'll see you next week with a new episode of this new season of Creativity and Robots. Have a good one.
Amo la creación en mi pantalla, bits y bytes en danza, todo brilla, cada código que escribo canta. Sabor a cumbia.